If you're already familiar with the tales of Nephilim, then you might have researched the claims that these giants did indeed walk the earth. While some argue in favor of these giants' ancient existence, while others argue that these creatures may even continue to exist to this very day. Many such scholars purport to have discovered the remains of Nephilim among archaeological dig sites and alongside the fossilized remains of the past. While these findings tend to shock orthodox science, some may find it even more shocking that there have been credible reports of giants as recently as 2002. These alleged sightings involve U.S. troops stationed in Afghanistan in the post-9/11 invasion and occupation of the remote and barren country. These soldiers reportedly engaged the monster in ferocious combat and managed to live to tell the story. If you're not already familiar with the Nephilim, they are a race of hybrid giants mentioned in the Bible in Genesis 6:4, as well as the Book of Enoch. The Nephilim are a deep subject all on their own, so if you'd like more information on them, then check out my video on the Book of Enoch. I used L.A. Marzulli's interview with a man called Mr. K, who claims to have encountered the creature, to construct the following narrative. Although slightly dramatized, the information is mostly unchanged. The story of the encounter in Afghanistan goes roughly something like this. After 9/11, the US reacted by invading in Afghanistan in a war that was dubbed Operation Enduring Freedom. Officially speaking, the US had deployed their troops in order to put an end to the terrorist operations within that country and to decapitate the command and control structure of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The confusion started when a patrol battalion went missing in the Kandahar region of Afghanistan. The Kandahar region is such a labyrinth of cave tunnels and desert that it's more comparable to that of an anthill rather than a province within a country. The team had been dark for a few hours, but alarms had not been raised until after they failed to rendezvous with the other squads at the agreed upon rally point. Leadership noticed their absence, and they sent in a far more elite unit of special forces to ascertain the whereabouts of the missing team. The Spec Ops team searched and scanned the rocky deserts of the Kandahar long before they found any sign from the previous team. Since the Kandahar is primarily composed of mountains, caves, and deserts, it's very challenging topography to search through and traverse. Nearly 24 hours elapsed before the team was able to find anything at all. That was until the team spotted a smashed up piece of plastic that appeared like it did not belong along a goat trail that led to the top of a nearby mountain. At the top of the mountain stood an entrance to a cave. The soldiers pressed forward, believing that they had located signs from the missing team within the cave. The cave was dark and smelled rancid. As they looked along the wall, they saw all sorts of broken bones and assorted fragments from what used to be spears, swords, and rusted Kalashnikov rifles and other various weapons scattered across the cave floor. As the team closed in further, they came across some even more familiar remnants and plastic components that they soon realized were the smashed up remains from the first team's communication gear. The squad leader did not think that we needed to explore the cave any further, and he signaled for a retreat and a reshuffling of the formation outside of the cave. The team attempted to form the widest and most advantageous distribution of military assets around the cave entrance. Whoever owned and wielded the weapons inside of the cave had probably been ambushed, and they were not going to make the same mistake. As they all focused towards the mouth of the cave, one of the soldiers spotted a black mass as he scanned over the entrance. He assumed that this mass was one of the large and spiky stalagmites which hung from the cave roof like sleeping bats. However, he soon realized he was not staring at an ordinary cave spike when the large mass suddenly came to life and darted away with inhuman speed. Although the cave was dark, they could still make out the movement from the massive object. As the team is preparing for action, their ears are assaulted by a horrific scream emanating from the cave, which now seems indistinguishable from a portal to hell. An enormous figure emerged from the abyss within the cave, with size and characteristics that most would not believe. The creature looked similar to a human, but was a giant, standing at a minimum of 12 feet tall. The giant looked primitive and wore long hair and a beard that were a reddish crimson color. The giant had 12 fingers and 12 toes, as well as 2 rows of teeth. The Titan brandished a gigantic metal spear and shield. Both of them were far too large to ever be wielded in the hands of men. The creature charged the squad with such speed that it shocked the entire team, and they found themselves paralyzed momentarily. The trance was broken when one of the men, named Dan, took the initiative and opened fire on the monster while advancing towards it. This jolted the other men back into reality, and they overlapped all of their available firepower upon the giant. The team was equipped with M4s, Carbine 308 sniper rifles, and Barrett 50 caliber anti-material rifles, while the other soldiers continued dumping rounds into the monster. It manages to close distance with Dan and thrust its spear through Dan like he were some kind of human shish kebab. Although they witnessed the gunfire striking the giant several times, he seemed to just absorb all the punishment without even complaining and continued advancing towards the squad. Collectively, the squad realized that they were not going to take this guy down with body shots, and they began to target the head of the creature. After sustaining multiple gunshots to the head, the Colossus monster finally collapsed and fell down dead. The team called for a medevac in order to extract them out of that hostile territory. Although these guys usually try to joke about inappropriate things after the battle in order to get their mind off of the carnage, they found that they were far too shaken to perform this ritual. 2 helicopters arrived on site, one to transport the giant and one to transport the survivors. Unfortunately, Dan succumbed to his wounds before receiving medical attention. They assisted the other team by loading the gigantic corpse into a net, but they found that it was too heavy for them to be able to move, and that the odor of the creature was worse than hardly anything that they had ever experienced. Reportedly, the soldiers were debriefed and warned that they could never speak about these events again. The soldiers also stated that these giant sightings in Afghanistan had become so prolific that they had become an open secret of sorts around the base. That's the story of the Kandahar Giant in a condensed nutshell. It wasn't until the work of Steve Quayle and L.A. Marzulli that these stories began to proliferate on internet message boards. This story is extremely far-fetched and only based on eyewitness accounts. I will admit, I am incredibly struck by the level of detail that they tell the story with. I generally listen to stories like this as a skeptic, constantly searching and scanning for inconsistencies. But there was not many that I could find in L.A. Marzulli's interview with Mr. K, who claims to have taken the beast down in Afghanistan. The way that he explains the decisions they made sounds well thought out, and his usage of military terms and jargon sounds exactly like what I would expect a real Special Forces soldier to sound like. Obviously, anyone remotely clever is capable of this. Still, my gut tells me that he's not lying. Afghanistan has proven to be such a difficult land to conquer that historians have given it the nickname the Graveyard of Empires. Regardless of whether it was Alexander the Great or the British Empire or whomever the preeminent military power of the time was, they always had trouble conquering and especially holding territory in Afghanistan. This is typically explained as simply being due to the rugged terrain, but maybe the hostility of the locals is actually far worse than what we've been led to believe. What do you guys think about these stories and the possibility that giants are still walking the earth? If you know anyone who served who has a story, then please share it below. And also let me know if you think that there's some other explanation as well. And if you enjoyed this, then please like, subscribe, and share the video. It takes an insane amount of resources to do stuff like this, so show the love, man. Also, make sure you follow my Rumble and check out my live streams over there for more discussions you definitely will not hear anyplace else. Until next time, guys, peace.